Did you know that Tucson was the first city in the United States to be designated as a City of Gastronomy by UNESCO? Attention Tucson restaurateurs, artisans, caterers, and retailers. This episode is tailored just for you. Join us today as we engage in a conversation with Janos Wilder, a James Beard award-winning chef and president of the City of Gastronomy of Tucson. We'll be delving into topics such as Tucson's heritage foods, the culinary programs offered by TCOG, and strategies for preserving heritage foods and promoting sustainability in the city. Welcome to the No Hesitations podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant leaders to help them overcome burnout, increase retention, reignite their passion, and drive successful businesses. We are so excited to bring you this episode live from the 10 West Festival, brought to you by Startup Tucson. Check out the show notes for more information on 10 West and Startup Tucson.
Folks, where are we today? What's happening? We are recording from the 10 West Festival in Tucson. What is 10 West, you ask? Great question. 10 West was founded by Startup Tucson in 2015 and is hosted every November in downtown Tucson. 10 West Impact Festival is a celebration of the growing innovation, creative, and entrepreneurial ecosystems in southern Arizona. Unique in its cross-industry approach, 10 West showcases the connectivity between technology, entrepreneurship, creativity, culture, and impact, uniting attendees to gain the knowledge and inspiration they need to innovate within their own careers and communities. You can hear people having a good time here right now in the background. The week-long event welcomes thousands of diverse attendees to participate in a multi-day conference, street fest, nightly events, and numerous other partner opportunities and experiences. So, Kristen, what are we doing here today? How are we taking advantage?
I was going to say, this is awesome to be literally right in the middle of the event, shooting a podcast. And we should mention that the reason why our audio sounds so good is because Cloud Microphones has set us up with this beautiful booth and all this amazing equipment. I need all of this at home. This is really, really cool. I love their retro microphones for sure.
You're going to check your purse on the way out.
Don't blow my car.
Security is absolutely going to check in with you before you leave.
Yeah, so I don't see any, so I think I'm in the clear.
Okay.
Today, good. Nick and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to a local entrepreneur who has been making a cultural impact through his food, business, and community involvement, Janos Wilder. Janos, thanks for being here with us today. Janos is an entrepreneur at least 5 times over in the Tucson community and is the president of Tucson's City of Gastronomy and the founder and owner of the new Studio Janos, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Welcome, Janos. We're super excited to talk about your new project, Studio Janos, and share with listeners a little bit about why Tucson was named a City of Gastronomy and discuss a little bit about what the organization's all about today and some of the amazing programs that they offer, because it is robust for sure. So,
thanks so much. It's so great to be here. What an opportunity. Thank you for letting me tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In December of 2015, Tucson became the first UNESCO City of Gastronomy designated in the United States, joining the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. Tucson was selected because of the region's rich agricultural heritage, thriving food traditions, and culinary distinctiveness. Tucson is well known for its Sonoran-style Mexican food, something Janos proudly and creatively showcases in so many of his dishes. Janos, will you tell us a little bit about what City of Gastronomy does, the programs it offers, and how it's impacted the city and businesses in the community?
Yeah, I think I'll go from sort of impact and then how we do it.
Great.
So the impact has been really tremendous. Came to Tucson in 1983 or before then and started my first restaurant then and been cooking with heritage foods pretty much ever since. But there were not a lot of adapters. People were not using heritage foods. They didn't really know about them. And I think that with the designation, now you see restaurants and chefs all around the city. You know, where do we get those choya buds? Where do we get that hot squash from? How do I get prickly pear syrup? How do I get tepary beans or white Sonoran wheat? Things that just have now started showing up on people's restaurants and menus in their restaurants, but have been grown here in some cases for close to 5,000 years. They are part of our heritage. And so that platform that City of Gastronomy, or getting that designation, has given us, has created a tremendous burst of pride within the community, within the food community, within the chef community, and the community at large, who really wants to try those things and understand why they're so special, and by inference, why they're so special, because they live here. So Tucson City of Gastronomy, in our work, tries to leverage that designation in a lot of different ways. We have several signature programs. One of them that's really cool, and I'm very excited about. We realized very early on that being part of a global network of cities globally, around the world, that we get invitations from all over the world to come and send chefs there. And we started doing that, but we realized that this isn't going to stop. We need to actually train a cadre, a cohort of chefs, our chef ambassadors, and it's one that rotates and will be changing every 2 or 3 years, the ambassadors, who go through a really rigorous training on how to take it on the road, which is very different than cooking at home. In your own restaurant, it's as controlled as you can possibly make it. When you go on the road, the controls go out the window. All the things that you thought you were going to have, you don't have. Maybe your food got stopped at the border, or they didn't. The guys you're working with didn't get the notes, or the setup's completely different. So you have to really think and learn to think on your feet and be ready for change and to adapt to all sorts of situations in your own restaurant at home. You don't necessarily do that. So we send chef ambassadors around the world to spread the word about Tucson. We send them carrying their choya budgets and carrying their tepary beans and their dried chilies and all of the great foods that come from here, and expressing through their culinary expertise, through their vision as chefs, what Tucson food is all about. So that program, not only do we do that around the world, but those ambassadors work with us in Tucson to spread the word about the City of Gastronomy, but more importantly, what our culinary and gastronomic heritage is.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
I think we both had that same thought. We were like,
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you discovered heritage foods. Were you out there foraging for them? Or did you find them because of a result of the City of Gastronomy? Because you cook with heritage foods so often in so many of the dishes that I've seen.
Yeah.
How did you first find them?
So I came to Tucson directly before I moved to Tucson. My wife's from Nogales. That's how we end up here. I'd been working in France. And working in France reinforced something that I'd learned prior to that, working in the mountains of Colorado, that the best things to cook with were the things that were around you. Take all the recipes and techniques and put those aside. Great recipes, great techniques I learned, but that was the kernel of truth that I took. We would go to the market every day, and we would write our menu on the way. And these were Michelin 2-star restaurants, right? And some of the best restaurants in the world. That's how it was done. The menu came from what was available and was available nearby. So when I came to Tucson, well, I didn't really know that anything was available nearby. So I started advertising for gardeners before I advertised for staff, and we started growing the things we wanted and started from the restaurant literally from the ground up in that way. But I wanted to grow the things I'd cooked with in France, right? Not necessarily what had grown here, because I didn't think anything had ever grown here.
It's so true.
a common misconception.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're starting a restaurant and you're in the kitchen from, 6 a.m. till midnight, you don't find out much.
Right.
No.
You don't see much growing.
No. So a friend of mine who was on the board for Native Seed Search, was an organization started the same year that we did, asked me if I would do a board dinner for them. And I'd heard about the organization, I knew a little bit, and so it really lit my curiosity. I said, okay, I'll do that, but I'm going to work with your products. And that lit the fire under me. And from then it was deep dives into the heritage products and also what I began to call the cultural culinary icons. Those dishes, iconic dishes from the region that really told the story of where we were.
Yeah.
So that's how that.
Will you
all
tempt
came
our
about.
palate with one of those dishes that you were just speaking of?
Read my mind.
Yeah. So the first. Okay. So Chile Rellenos, for instance. Okay. So you get Chile Rellenos all over the place, and so I felt my job was to really not only understand what you could get at a restaurant, but what was that the ideal in its ideal form. How do you roast the chilies to keep them green and they don't, start falling apart? What do you put inside them? Does it have to be cheese? Can you do anything else? What kind of sauce might go with this? Does it have to be, an enchilada sauce, or could it be something else? Well, remember I was coming from France. First Chile Relleno I ever put on my menu was a lobster and brie Chile Relleno on a French Nantua sauce that, and all those French techniques that go into making that sauce that takes hours and hours to make. That's the first, and with a little jicama salad on the side.
This sounds like an Iron Chef dish, like something straight out of Iron Chef Japan.
Yep.
The French meets Sonoran fusion.
And we're still doing that today.
Yeah,
that's what
no, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I've
We're
seen.
still doing
I
that
believe
today.
you have something like that in your cookbook.
I do
I've
have
seen,
that.
right
I
at
have
home.
that dish
I
in
haven't
my
attempted
cooking.
it yet.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, so but that's how that sort of got started for me, and so ever since it's deeper and deeper dives into that. So now I work with all sorts of people who are much more knowledgeable than I am, and say, for instance, I'm going to be writing my winter menu soon. What things can I be working with that I don't know about? Right. So trying to figure that out and work those into my menus at the studio.
Awesome. Love it.
So we were talking about what do we do at City Gastronomy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ambassador training one. Then we work with 10 West and with Forge to do heritage business startup labs to get people who are interested in what the heritage foods are and have business ideas to help them bring those business ideas. Young entrepreneurs, not necessarily young, but in many cases, startup businesses. How do we get them involved in using heritage food so we can really grow that industry, really, that food business that really specializes in our heritage foods. And it's essential to us because if those heritage foods are going to live into the future, they have to be used, right? And so we have to grow more of them. So that would be another one of our really signature programs. Another one is the Pueblos del Maíz Festival, which was in its second or third year last year, where we partner with other cities of gastronomy from the region and Merida, Mexico, San Antonio, and Puebla are the other cities, and it's a festival that lasts a month, and it goes from one city to the next. Not necessarily do we go on the road and take it, but we'll do it at one weekend in Tucson, then the next weekend in Merida, and then Puebla, and then San Antonio, all of them expressing through their eyes, through their prism of where they live, what corn does and how to use corn. And we're really proud of that festival because it's grown tremendously, and it really involves so much of Tucson. It's not just chefs, it's communities getting involved and showing off the things that they do. We had a big, last year it culminated in an event at Kennedy Park, which was out of this world, really enlivened that park with food booths and music and brought the whole community together. It was really cool. Food Heroes Award. So we really want to acknowledge our heritage foods and who are the practitioners who really have been spending the time and working with the heritage foods and really bringing that to the forefront, and also the Visionary Award. Who are the people who move that into the future? So we work with folks to award those. And then our certification program. We certify restaurants as Tucson City of Gastronomy restaurants, and it's an aspirational process. Not everyone that applies for that process is going to get that certification. So we're not in the business of being food critics. We're not telling you who has our favorite restaurants. We're telling you who are the leaders in the industry whose practices are leadership practices. So who uses heritage foods, who uses local foods, who uses local vendors. Everybody has to be local. Everything has to be locally owned. You can't be a chain and get that. Who is paying above minimum wage? Who's taking good care of their employees? Who has sustainable practice? Doesn't waste a lot of water? Who, in addition,
It's a restaurant calling you right now. Janos, we want to be certified. How do we do
it's
it?
actually the restaurant wife that's calling you right now.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
we're just going to say that. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we want the restaurants that are certified to be model businesses, and we want it to be aspirational. So one year they say, well, we didn't get the certification. We need to do more recycling. We need to do more with water conservation or composting, or where we got up how we're taking care of our staff. Then they will do those things and come back to us the next year.
Love that. And I just want to throw in at TCOG, we don't just certify restaurants, right? We certify
Thank
retailers,
you.
caterers, artisans. So
Absolutely.
it's going beyond the reach of just restaurants,
And
which
food
is
trucks too. So yes,
awesome. Love that.
So and we'll be expanding that as well.
Great.
We start out small, proof of concept, get proof of concept, and then you can move on.
awesome.
Yeah. I had a question in there a little earlier on, and I think we can actually circle back to it as an example. So when we were talking about heritage foods, you mentioned a dish, Chile Rellenos.
Yeah.
You also mentioned tepary beans a couple times.
Yeah.
And I think for listeners, even if this is just a 30-second sidebar, I think it would be really good just to put a few words around that. What makes the tepary bean, A, so special, and then B, why is that such a big deal in the heritage food space?
I'm not sure I can do an A and B in 30 seconds.
That's okay. You can have a little bit more
You might
time.
have noticed that.
You can have a little bit more time than that if you want. That was my introduction to heritage food in Tucson. I should have mentioned that earlier when I first got here. Tepary beans were really the gateway for me into both understanding a lot of the Native American and indigenous activism that's taking place in this place with the Tohono O'odham, but then also heritage foods generally, right?
So the thing about heritage foods, we live in a place that's so dry and so arid that everything that comes out of the ground has to fight and scramble to survive. And so particularly they have to be really adapted to an arid climate. So tepary beans take very little water to grow. So they can grow in a very arid climate. They're high in protein. They can go dormant and come back. So in really bad years, you might not have a good year, but that doesn't mean they won't come back the next year. They're very small, bean. So they work in all sorts of ways. They take a while to cook because they're so dry. So we kind of use the water at the other end, but they're a delicious bean that really can go in all sorts of recipes, and they really are sort of one of the gateway foods for a lot of people.
Right.
So and it's one of the beans that farmers have taken a real liking to, so they're growing more and more of that. So there's not such a rarity and scarcity.
Right, and so from a climate change standpoint, or rather a climate resiliency standpoint, that's another reason to love those beans, is because as we shift to a more arid climate, or rainfall becomes more unpredictable, any of these things, right? We can grow those. Yeah,
and that's one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have here the key to the future from an agricultural standpoint. We have seeds that grow in arid climates, and climates where so much more of the world is going to be experiencing, and they can use our seeds to do that with. And so that's a really an important piece. Yes, it's part of the resiliency that this area has, because we fought so long, not us personally, but all these little seeds that are in the ground and
Right.
scrambling to get above ground. They fought for so long that they could be the answer elsewhere as well.
I was going to ask, how can we protect heritage foods? How do we ensure that they are staying around? You mentioned earlier that we have to make sure that we're constantly growing them and that there's demand for them. What else do we need to do?
Yeah, I think there's a tension there, right? So on the one hand, we have to continue to popularize them, because that's going to provide jobs for people who want to go out and make and grow those products. I think that's the biggest piece, is put them on our menus, have them in our stores, make them popular so that they never go away, because they're always in demand, and that starts a sort of virtuous circle and gives people jobs and really influences the economy. They're resilient. All the other things that we want to have happens in that way, and that's very much part of what the City of Gastronomy is all about, and one of the sort of benefits of getting that designation. So we can really start those programs because people begin to know more and care more about and demanding those sorts of products. That's the goal.
So when a restaurant or a business comes to you and comes to TCOG and says, I want to be certified, I don't cook a lot with heritage foods, where can I find them? What do you tell them?
So there's a lot of places they can find them. So depending on what you want. Mission Gardens is a great example of that. I go to Mission Gardens to get my Tana Autumn hot squash. I get my pomegranates that came from the wheat stock that Father Kino brought over here. I get all sorts of things, and it changes season by season as to what they're growing. Those things show up on my menus, and those show up on menus around the town. We can get choya buds from San Javier Co-op Farms and other items that they'll harvest or that they'll grow there. Either wild harvesters or they're growing there. You can go to Native Seed Search and get lots of different varieties of beans through them. So there are sources out there for them. You can go to Sherry's Desert Harvest to get prickly pear juice and prickly pear service. She has, I don't know if there's a bigger plot. I've never heard of a bigger plot of cultivated and harvested prickly pears than she has, and she's doing thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of that every year.
I moved here a year ago, and prickly pear is all the rage. I just went around the corner where they have local teas being served, and out of the 4 varieties, the prickly pear is gone. My girlfriend forages, who's a private chef, she forages for prickly pear all the time, just in neighborhoods. It's incredible.
I think I told you that my dream was always to be arrested foraging for prickly pears on property I shouldn't be on.
We could probably make that happen.
I mean, there's still time, right?
Because there's still a chance, right? When I was, we're just starting off, I said, I'm going to go over there and get that. I need that.
How about you come over to my house, I'll call the cops.
I was going to say, that's Janos' risque fantasy, is getting me...
getting busted for prickly
The
pear.
Heritage Foods fantasy, brought to you. I love that. That's amazing.
I would drive around with 5-gallon buckets in the back of my car and tongs. And stuff.
Only a chef.
Tell me about the most controversial thing you've ever done. Well, this one time I was in someone's yard in my neighborhood, and I saw a plant that I liked, and I took it.
Well, foraging for prickly pear is dangerous, right? So,
you should, wear gloves, be safe.
Grab some tongs.
Make sure you know whose land you're on, etc.
Will you tell us a little bit about this new project, Studio Janos, and the role that Heritage Foods is playing in that?
Yeah, so Studio Janos is like the smallest and most personal thing that I've ever done. I've failed retirement, as I've told you, and realized that I didn't have a hobby. I tried golfing, a good walk ruined.
Hayao Miyazaki's on the phone. He has a word with you about failing retirement. He's done it twice now.
Yes.
And I don't think he's going to retire again. And he's 83, I think, 84. He's a film director.
I think that's a really good role model for me.
Give him a call. I bet he'd love to talk.
So I decided to pare everything down to the essence of what I wanted to do the most and what I loved the most, which was cooking. the food is all about the food, and cooking for small groups and having a really intimate interaction with my guests. So we have 12 seats. I do a seasonal menu, and the seasonal menu is based on the heritage. The seasonal foods, the heritage foods that are in season at the time. So right now, apples from Wilcox, Tohono O'odham Huts, squash. Obviously, it's green corn tamale season, so a dish based on that. The moles and that come at this time of year. So those are the underpinnings for the menu. So that's the whole idea behind it.
And you're doing some cooking classes as well at Studio Janos, or you will.
I've got one tonight.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact. Yeah, so I'll do some cooking classes. So the way that Studio Janos works is you can't call up and get a reservation for two, right? We have 12 seats. You can book up to 12 people into it, and that's how we sell the space. So we sell the space. That's really how I want to do the cooking classes and how we've done all the dinners, and we've been crazy busy for the first 5, way beyond my expectations.
And are the guests picking the menu, or are you writing it for them and saying sit back and enjoy?
Pretty much the latter. And any changes that they want if they don't eat, one of the proteins or something that they object to, or they have dietary restrictions or whatever. That's really easy to work around. But my goal is to showcase the heritage foods. So I'm not quite as excited about, make us a French dinner. Well, there's others who can do that for you. I want them to take pride in where they live and to tell everybody about it.
Well, and I think being able to be a part of Studio Janos has been absolutely incredible. One of the most amazing parts of it is listening to you tell every single story about every single food, whether you're getting the lamb from a local 4-H club, which is amazing and adorable, to just where you're sourcing everything and the story behind it. It really just brings the dish to life, and it just makes it so unique, and it's an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And people love you, and they love your food, and they love the idea and the concept, but it's just so intimate and it's so unique, and it's beautiful.
So full disclosure, so they love her too. And Kristen has worked for me there, and this woman has unbelievable experience in the restaurant business. So you can tap her for anything. So she's worked as a server, and you worked in the kitchen with me one night.
That was the most terrifying experience of my life.
Well,
that's really saying something coming from you.
My husband said to me, I said, Janos wants me to help him in the kitchen. I've never worked next to James Beard, chef, award-winning chef, twice over in the kitchen. And I was terrified. I didn't know the space. I didn't know the equipment. I'm not really confident when it comes to my cooking skills. I'm the sous chef at home. I meal prep. I grocery shop. I chop everything. And then Tyler says, get out of the kitchen. I'm going to put everything together. When I told Tyler Janos wanted me to come help in the kitchen, his first words to me were, do you want me to come with you and wait in the car in case you need my help? So I said yes.
And
I never saw him that evening. You didn't need any help.
And it sounds like you'll be back again.
Now I've got the bug.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Anyway.
Okay, I've got a schedule here.
Yeah.
I love it. Anything else we want to take this time to highlight on? About TCOG,
this is more of a nuts and bolts thing, but Janos, you're hiring right now, aren't you? Or looking for help in the kitchen?
Yeah. So kind of. So I do all of the cooking, all of the prep.
All the things.
That piece to me, that's the fun. When I'm in the kitchen by myself during the course of the week before leading up to these dinners, I got my music on and I'm in my element. But I can't do it myself. So the night of an event, we're cooking for 12 people. There'll be 4 of us. And there'll be 2 servers, and I'll have somebody else in the kitchen with me as well, because it's really a very high-touch, intimate experience. And so I am. I'm looking to fill out my roster of cooks and servers who want to work in that sort of environment, who have other jobs, and maybe they have a night or two here or there that they're available and have come with great experience and great passion and want to be able to experience something that's way out of most people's realm of experience in the restaurant world. It's the best piece of the restaurant world. It's the best piece of service. It's the best piece of the interaction with your guests that any of us really get to have.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
So yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know.
Janos at downtownkitchen.com.
I mean, you should go for it. This is the chance, right?
Yeah.
What else, Kristen?
I think we covered a lot of groundwork today. Anything else you want to touch on, Janos?
Yeah, so I think that we talked about the signature programs at City of Gastronomy, but I think it's also important to talk about our value system.
Oh, great.
Because the signature programs are the things that we put into action, right? But the values are the underpinnings about it, the philosophical and ethical underpinnings of the work that you do. And I think that's really important when we talk about that. So, one, we want to recognize the diversity and the interaction within the whole food heritage community. So it's very diverse, and Tucson is such a diverse community, and all of that is expressed within the Tucson City of Gastronomy, and we want to give all of that voice. We want to acknowledge and to respect the knowledge keepers and the products that they've created or grown and the traditional foods that are here. It's not about the chefs like me that come along and are able to use the fruits of their work. It's to acknowledge and respect those who did the hard work for generations before that. We want to provide equity in distributing the benefits of the designation. So there's a lot of things that come with that designation that should bring value to the entire community and all portions of the community, and that's very important to us, that we don't get pigeonholed or pigeonhole others. Support, we can't do everything. We're a small organization. We have one salaried employee. That's it. Okay, it's all board work, and we can't do everything. So we want to support the advocates in the community that do the sort of work that's important to us. We can support them in ways without doing their work, and that's an important piece of spreading the word. And we want to really create and extend and amplify the vision for a more sustainable food system. So that's sort of our value system.
That's great. So if any chefs, restaurateurs, artisans, caterers, food trucks, if anybody, retailers, if they're interested in learning more about City of Gastronomy, go to the website. All the information is there. The certification is open all year round, so you don't have to wait for a specific time period. And again, if you're not ready to be certified, like Janos said, they're going to give you advice on what you need to do to come back, which is amazing. You mentioned the series of heritage foods earlier. That is just a really awesome program, and this year we are hosting that at Forge every second Thursday from 9 to 10. It's beautiful this year because it's a chef partnering up with a food vendor and actually cooking and showcasing those heritage ingredients, which is awesome. So
that is awesome.
So
the stuff happening at Forge that we're at We're at 10 West right now. So the stuff that's going on there is unbelievable. And they are wonderful collaborators with us. We're proud of that relationship, and that they think highly enough of us to collaborate with us.
Awesome. Well, Janos, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here and sharing all your knowledge. And I think if there's nothing else, we can go on with our day. Go check out some more of these events at 10 West.
I think we could take it home, folks. So subscribe and listen in each week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. And be sure to follow Kristen Marvin and Nick Spinelli on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Solutions by Kristen newsletter. This was the No Hesitations podcast. I hope we sound this good again soon. We'll see you next week, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Janos.
Thank you.